Jean-Roch Coignet's Memoirs offer a vivid account of his life as a soldier under Napoleon Bonaparte. The Napoleonic Wars are over, and he is trying to return to civilian life. Around this time, an armourer pursued for seditious remarks arrived at Carolus's. I became attached to this man. I made him my friend. His name was Jacoud. I stayed with him when I left my hotel. I had only good things to say about him. One evening I returned home at 11 o'clock. I took my lantern to check on my horses before going to bed, as I always did. My stable opened onto Rue du Collège, and I entered through the courtyard. I found my 3 horses lying down, spoke to them aloud. "So, you are lying down, my good friends." Then I heard footsteps near the stable door. I undid the 2 bolts, saw a patrol, arms at their feet, listening to me. I opened the door and said, "These are the ones I am talking to." A bit confused, the officer ordered arms and continued on his way. My God, I thought, I am being watched. Every day I went to Café Milan to spend my evenings and watch the regulars play their games. I became acquainted with Mr. Ravenel-Chaumont. This excellent man took a liking to me. After having his half cup of coffee, he would say, "Let's go, Captain, for our little walk." We left through the temple gate, took winding paths to contemplate the vineyards. I believed I was alone with my friend, but not at all. We saw a man lying flat under the vine leaves, listening to us. The police were then against me. I soon felt the first sparks. I was invited to go to the town hall to present myself before the mayor, Mr. Blandevot, a tall and amiable magistrate. I can only praise his always benevolent welcome. "You are denounced," he told me. "You must be careful. You made remarks against the government. I swear on my honour it is false. I deny the accusation and the accuser. Let me face the scoundrel. Put me in his presence. I ask neither for grace nor protection. If I am guilty, have me arrested. You are the master. Go, I believe you. Be careful." The next day, I went to the café, found my friend Ravenot. We went out together. Arriving on the Courson road, I said, "We must not take the small paths. We could find spies hiding in the vines. Let's follow the road, for yesterday the police officer came to fetch me to appear before the mayor, who dismissed me. Yet we did not say a word about politics. These are people who do this job to earn money." "Who is this officer?" I asked his name. "It is Monbont. He is tall, wears short breeches, has calves like a deer, and a lump by his ear." Horse enthusiasts came to see mine. Finally, a veterinarian named Sigalat sold my fine battle horse for 924 francs to Robin's son from the horse post. It had cost me 1,800. I had to go through with it. I still had 2 left. When the 60th, of Yonne, was ordered to leave Auxerre to garrison in Auxonne, I received a letter from the chief surgeon. "My brave captain, you can bring your 2 horses. I think they will be sold if the price suits you, farm 200 francs and 80 francs for the trip. If that suits you, you will find us in Dijon. We are here for the Duchess of Angoulême's passage. The major takes one, the commander the other. You will stay at the Chapeau Rouge. That's where they are staying." How to get to Dijon? If I ask, they will tell me, "I forbid you to leave the city." Damn! My move would be foiled. I must leave at 3 in the morning. I did not sleep, as if I were about to do something wrong. The next day, I was at 8 o'clock at the Chapeau Rouge Hotel. At 11 o'clock, the Yonne regiment returned from escorting the Duchess. I had had time to refresh my horses. My arrival was announced to these gentlemen. They came. The big major, seeing me, said, "So the owner of these horses did not come. You must take me for a servant. You are mistaken. I am the owner of these horses. I do not look like a servant. I am decorated, and I was before you, whether you like it or not. Which of these 2 horses are you taking?" "The Norman horse." "I will give him to you. I want 600 francs and the 80 francs promised. I will write you a note that you can cash with my brother, the paymaster." An hour later, I returned to deliver my horse, fully saddled and bridled, in the courtyard. "Sir, if you had asked for that one, I would not have given it to you. It alone is worth 1,200 francs. And I said to the Marquis de Ganay, who was there, "If you want, I will ride it up to the first floor and come down on it, if the stairs are practicable. I will show you the merits of this horse." Indeed, I mounted and manoeuvred it in all directions. It walked at a man's pace backward. Likewise, I made it stand on the window ledge. "Stay there," I said to it. It did not move. "There, Major, is a master's horse, and the one you have is my pack horse. It is not trained." The next day, in Auxerre, no one had noticed my absence. I reported my journey to Mr. Marais. "The verdict of your trial is rendered. They are each sentenced to 1,500 francs in damages. I am appointed to return your property. All those who have your property must give it up, and the notary of Courson will draw up the acts of renunciation at their expense. I will assign them the day. I have all the names. They are 17. It does not concern you. I will tell you the day, and we will go, you and your brother." My brother jumped for joy. "It has been 17 years, he said, that they have been extorting money from me." On the appointed day, we left for Moufy, accompanied by Mr. Marais, to settle into our small property, which was not worth the trouble, as it cost us 1,000 francs more than its value. But we had won. When these wretches had given up, we returned to Auxerre. My brother said to Mr. Marais, "Have your invoice ready. I will pay you immediately, as my brother has no money." The costs amounted to 1,800 francs, and we had still won. Seeing this bill, I grimaced a bit, but said nothing. Poor litigants, how you are plucked. With this matter settled, we left for Druys, our birthplace, in a beautiful cabriolet to attend the sale of our debtor's property. I agreed with my brother not to strip our father, to leave him everything that had to be sold to cover our sum, for the rest of his life. After a stormy debate with my brother, the sale proceeded. We went to our father's to inform him of our good intentions towards him. "It is more to increase your fortune than to diminish it." "Very well," he said, "but I want lodging for my wife after me." "That will not happen," my brother said. "I remember she took me and my sister into the woods to lose us. Besides, you have given her the rest of your fortune. You stripped your children to give her first 36 bushels of wheat for her life, and then, you know, she is richer than us." I would have consented, but my brother, who had suffered so much from this woman's cruelties, did not want to give in. Everything was settled the same day, but my father held a grudge against us later. Back in Auxerre, my brother settled our accounts. I found myself owing 700 francs. "Well," he said, "before sharing, give me 2 pieces of vineyard, and we will be even. Choose." Finally, I had 6 acres of poor land and vineyards left. How relieved I was to be free of such a sum to my brother. I had 1 horse left for my entire fortune. The next day we went to Mr. Marais to bring him his 800 francs. We were invited to dinner, and my brother left for Paris. On Sunday, I was invited to dinner at Mr. Marais's, who gave me a discount of 100 francs. He remembered the fine pistols I had given him as a gift, but I had to lend him my horse now and then when he had properties to visit. This could not be refused, but others came to borrow it too. I told them, "It is reserved by Mr. Marais." I reported all these invitations to Mr. Marais, who knew everyone. "Do not lend it. You will not be able to enjoy it, and I count on your kindness. It is at your service, but these gentlemen I do not know torment me. You must refuse. This morning a tall man dressed in black, thin and pale, who has poor eyesight, came. He looked like a judge. He asked me to lend him my horse to see his woods." "Did he give you his name?" "Yes, he is called Chopin. Do not think of lending your horse to him, he would make it eat straw." "And what to do?" "Tell him I have it for a month." "That's enough. If he bothers me, I will send him to you." "I will handle it," he said. My father got angry with us. He summoned us to pay him a life annuity. I left for Druyes to try to settle this matter before the mayor, Mr. Tremot. "Come on, father. We must settle this." "I agree, but I want 14 bushels of wheat a year and 200 francs. "But that is not possible. You know I have nothing. You are richer than me. Is that your final word? If you came for that, that's what I want. My wife must have enough to live after me. You will pay for the mistake you made." I gathered all the information about my father's fortune at the time of his request. It turned out he was richer than me by 10,000 francs. I brought all this information to Mr. Marais, and he handled the case. It was litigated. I proved in court that my father had 10,000 francs more than me. It did not matter. I recognized Judge Chopin among them, and was condemned to 240 francs payable 3 months in advance. I was suffocated. I returned to my lawyer. "Well," I said, "you gave me bad advice. If I had let my horse eat straw, I might not have lost my case, because I believe this judge harmed me." My father soon served me the judgment. It was a thunderbolt for me. But my God! I do not have gout, yet here are strong leeches applied to my purse. 80 francs for 4 sheets of paper, the stamp and registration. It is expensive. Go to court. I would rather have both ears cut off. That has never happened to me since. I feared leeches too much. I borrowed 40 francs to pay these costs. The poor half-pay was not enough. I had to tighten my belt. I sold my horse to Mr. Cousin of Avalon, which put me back on my feet, having received 600 francs immediately. How happy I was to pay the first 30 francs to my father, by the commissioner who gave me his receipt. I moved to Father Toussaint Armancier, Place du Marché Neuf. There my pension and lodging cost me only 45 francs a month, with a small pot-au-feu of £1.50 for 2 days. I went to Café Milan to watch the regulars play their games, never taking a cup of coffee. From there, I always went out with my friend Chaumont Ravenel for our usual walk, then returned to the café to leave at 10 o'clock. This was the life I led all the time I remained single. I did not go more than 15 days without being denounced. Then it slowed down. The police commissioner was questioned to report on my conduct. I can say to his credit that I owe him my freedom. He vouched for me throughout my surveillance. He watched me without ever speaking. They held the funeral ceremony for Louis XVI. On the designated day for the service, all the authorities were summoned to attend this painful event, and we received orders to report to General Boudin's residence to escort the prefect to the cathedral. The church was full. After the service, Father Villard ascended the pulpit, and the general signalled us to exit the choir and move opposite the pulpit. We formed a circle, all seated, with our general in the middle. Father Villard read the will of Louis XVI in a stentorian voice. After the reading, he launched into a tirade against the usurper Bonaparte, who had brought carnage to all nations with his satellites, these blood-drinkers who slaughtered children in their cradles. At this, the faces of the old warriors turned pale, and the general, who should have come to our defence, said nothing. Leaving the ceremony, everyone was silent. I felt like I was suffocating with anger against Father Villard. He wounded me so deeply that I have only attended ceremonies since then out of necessity. This is what I saw and heard. Let the people of that time remember it. We had to remain humiliated. We had to attend Mass every Sunday, and I kept seeing that white-haired head with its stiff curls ascending the pulpit. I think I would have left the cathedral, so painful was it to see this man. One Corpus Christi day, we were at our general's place, then at the prefect's, waiting to go to the cathedral. But as the conversations dragged on a bit too long, the procession started, and someone came to inform the prefect of this misfortune. Instead of going to the church, we had to hurry to catch up with the procession in the square. But when we had passed the portal and walked along the clergy to get behind the canopy, following our general, they shouted behind us at the top of their lungs, "Back! Officers to the back! Back!" It was the court that wanted to pass in front of us. I was on the left side. The public prosecutor, who was beside me, said, Do you not hear that I am telling you to stay behind? But I am following my general. I am telling you to let the court pass. Are you the one commanding us? Well, command then. I do not know you, he said. But I know you. Your name is Gachon, and only a Gachon like you could ruin an officer like me. If you were an officer, I would have a few words for you. Among us were knights of St. Louis who had the insolence to say, "Give him a slap." I turned and looked at them with contempt. What are you saying? It is up to you to slap him and not me. You would be forgiven and I would be shot. Once again, I had to remain humiliated. This caused a great commotion in the procession, and one of the general's aides-de-camp came to report what had just happened behind him. After the ceremony, the general said to me, "My brave man, this will not happen again. The marching order will be known. It is too late. You will not see us again. Let Mr. Gachon remember that." The Duchess of Angoulême came to visit Auxerre, and all the preparations were made to receive her. Sailors, all dressed in white, were ordered to unhitch her horses at the Temple Gate. I was ordered to go in full uniform to the Temple Gate and stand by the right carriage door of the princess, sword in hand. I complied. Orders are not invitations, they must be obeyed. Upon arrival at my post, I stood near the carriage door, and these turkeys dressed in white pulled the carriage at a slow pace. With my ancient appearance, I did not say a word. She could boast, had she known me, that I would not have let her be insulted. I have always respected misfortune. When we reached Saint-Étienne Square, the carriage stopped near the cathedral, and the clergy, with the cross and the large crucifix carried by Father Viard and Mr. Fortin, vicar, approached the left door. Father Viard presented his crucifix, and poor Fortin, his head tilted on Father Viard's shoulder, cried heartily. His tears flowed so heavily down his fat cheeks that it almost made me want to cry too. How amusing it was for me. When all the blessings and crucifix kisses were finished, the princess's carriage, dragged by porters, entered the courtyard of the prefecture. At the foot of the steps, she was received by the authorities and slowly ascended the steps. She was pale, thin, and worried. She was ushered into a large room that could hold 300 people. There, a throne was prepared for her. My mission completed, I joined the group of half-pay officers to make our visit to this princess, daughter of the unfortunate Louis XVI. Our turn came, we were announced, and formed a circle in this immense room. She did not address a word to us. She looked sullen. A tall, pale lady presented herself to offer a ring she said belonged to the ancestors of Louis XVIII's family. A lady-in-waiting reported this visit to the Duchess, who said, "Have this woman removed." She had no choice but to leave, very embarrassed. At that time, we were ordered to find establishments, which meant, "You are dismissed." All the officers who could not stay in town fled to the countryside to live at the farmers' tables for 300 francs a year. I immediately took action. I went to Moufy to settle for a month, putting my pieces of vineyard in good condition, telling myself that if I spent my savings on them, I could always live on my 73 francs a month. Like my 2-day labourers, I worked the handle of my hoe. Within a month, my small pieces of vineyard were in perfect condition. I did not yield to my 2 vine growers. I showed them that a soldier could take up the plough again. My poor hands had severe blisters, but I worked furiously, saying, "I have been through worse trials. I will show you, my children, that the land should feed its master." I returned to Auxerre for more serious matters, having decided, "You must get married. You can no longer remain single, now that you are allowed to form an establishment, but first you must find her." To whom should I confide? I went to visit Mr. Moore, who was one of my worthy friends, and I had been seeing him since 1814. I was always well received. He had a relative working in his shop whom he always called my cousin. I had noticed her because of her industriousness in the business, but I said nothing. Time provided the opportunity. This lovely young lady found a small business, and without saying anything to her relatives, became its owner. I had lost sight of her. Stopping by Mr. Labour, the confectioner, to visit, Mrs. Labour said to me, "Do you know a decorated captain living in Champ?" "No, madam. He wants to marry a young lady, a friend of ours, who worked for Mr. Moore for 11 years and has just started her own business." "And where is she established?" "At the corner of Rue des Belles Filles. She paid for the business and the house in full, with good furniture." "Well, madame, I know this captain only from seeing him at major ceremonies. I cannot give you any definite information." I took my leave. Ah, I thought, someone wants to steal this young lady from me. I must act quickly. That same day, I went to see Miss Bailey. That was her family name. "Mademoiselle, I would like to buy some coffee and sugar." "Certainly, sir," she said. "I would like to have the coffee freshly ground. I will grind it for you. How much do you need? £1 will suffice." And so I had her grind the coffee. With the operation finished and my 2 packages secured, I paid. "I did not buy much. Too bad, sir. That is not what I wanted. It is you I want to speak with." "Well, speak. I am listening. I am here to ask for your hand. I do my own proposing without preamble or roundabout phrases. I do not know how to make speeches. I ask you frankly, like a soldier." "Well, I will answer you the same way it may be possible. Well, mademoiselle, what time shall we meet to discuss this serious matter?" "At 6 o'clock. At 6 o'clock sharp I arrived. "You do not have permission. I will ask for it, but we must agree on our facts and fortunes. To get permission, my future wife must bring a dowry of 12,000 francs. "I can prove it," she said, "including my house and furniture. So, we are in agreement. As for me, I have nothing but a few acres of land and vineyards. But I owe nothing. All my small savings have been spent on repairing my vineyards. I did not think I would marry so soon. Well, ask for your permission, I give you my word. And I, mademoiselle, give you mine. Tomorrow I will request it from the general." I was well received by the general. "I will send your request immediately and endorse it. Thank you, General." 8 days later, I had my permission. I rushed to Miss Baillet. "Here is my permission. We need to set a date to sign the contract. If you are ready, we can set our wedding date." "You are going too fast. I must inform my relatives. Take all the time you need. Then we will decide on a date that suits you. I wanted to marry on my name day, August 16th. That is not possible. It is a holiday. Let us set it for the 18th. I will write to Paris to invite only my sister, as we will not have a big wedding. That is my intention. Besides, I have no money, and your family is too large. I do not want them to know the day of our wedding. I will just inform them that I am getting married, that is all. It would cost 500 to 600 francs. It is better to invest it in our small business." I agree. We set the 10th for the contract, and the 18th for our wedding. The contract was signed. Mr. Marais was my witness, and Mr. Labour my future wife's. My dowry in cash was meagre. I said to her, "All I have is 4 francs 50 cents. You will have to cover the rest. I offer you a repeater watch, a beautiful chain, and 2 silver utensils. My wardrobe leaves nothing to be desired. 40 shirts, and the rest in proportion, plus 73 francs per month, 125 francs per year from the Legion of Honour, and 4 casks of wine. But I do not owe a penny. Well, sir, we will manage." Everything was agreed upon. I went immediately to Mr. Rivolet to ask for an 80-franc loan to buy a shawl, which I immediately gave to my fiancée. She was delighted. I then visited Mr. Moore to inform him of my marriage. "Whom are you marrying?" "Your cousin, Miss Bailey. She is the one I would have chosen for you, my friend. I offer my services. I may need them. Count on me." I also stopped by Mr. Labour. "It is your fault that I am marrying your friend. You alerted me. Without you, someone might have stolen her from me. How happy we are to have mentioned it to you." That was not my biggest worry. I had to go to confession. I asked around. "You should go to Mr. Lelong," I was told. "He is a good man." I went to him immediately. "Sir," I said, "I have chosen you to marry me. But are you confessed?" "Not at all. That is why I am here. What can you expect from a soldier? I have done my duty. Well, I will do mine." He placed his knees on the edge of a chair, muttered a short prayer, and leaving the chair gave me his blessing, which was as good as any other, along with my confession ticket. "Tell Father Viard that I will officiate your marriage. Whom are you marrying? Miss Bayet?" "Ah," he said, "I studied with her father. Is she confessed?" "No, sir. Send her to me. That is enough. I would like to marry on the 18th at 4 in the morning. The church does not open until 5, but I will get the keys at 4:30 and meet you at the door. Thank you. I will send my fiancée to you immediately. I will be waiting." I jumped for joy to be done with that. I went to my fiancée. "Mademoiselle, I am confessed. Mr. Lelong is expecting you." "Well, I will go." "You must go to him. He is an old friend of your father, he told me so. Well, stay with these ladies. I will not be long." Everything was done in half an hour, and the next day we took our 3 francs to Father Viard. I had planned everything for our departure. I had rented a 4-seater carriage, which was waiting for us at the Champinot gate, just outside the church. At 6 o'clock, we were in the carriage after having a cup of coffee. No one in the neighbourhood was awake. It was like an elopement. I had informed Muffy that I would bring my wife on the 18th, to expect me and a good stew, as I would bring the rest. I took a 3-franc pâté, and we set off to dine at Muffy. The next day, we went to Coulanger's to dine with Mr. Ledoux, who was waiting for us with a ceremonial dinner. His daughter worked in my wife's shop. We returned to Auxerre at 9 in the evening, and no one in the neighbourhood suspected anything. The next day, I got up at 5 to open my shop, and the neighbours, seeing me so early, would say, "The lover is very early." The same thing the next day. They did not suspect that I was married. I can certify that, including the carriage, my wedding expenses amounted to 20 francs over 2 days. One could not be more modest. On Sunday we made our visits. Everywhere there were reproaches for not inviting them to our wedding. Do not blame me, I could not. I would have had to send you away after the church service, as I could not host you. You are too many. I only ask for your friendship. The ladies said, "If we had only attended the blessing, it was too early to disturb you." It was the same everywhere. The family was so large that it took us 3 days. Once these painful visits were over, I got back to work immediately. I was up at 4 in the morning to do our little chores, and I put my hand to everything with my lovely wife. We could not afford a maid, only a cleaning woman for 3 francs a month. I grabbed the mop to roast my coffee, but as I was on reserve duty, I was forbidden to use it. I had to comply. I went to Mr. Moore to ask for credit for groceries. "I will give you everything you need, but no promissory notes. Just on my word, I will only take a ledger. Anything you want." "Well, let us start today. I will not buy everything from you. Mr. Labour must also supply certain items such as oil, chocolate and candles. Anything you want is at your service." My purchases amounted to 1,000 francs. He wanted me to take more. If I need more, I will return. I went to Mr. Labour to make the same request. "You will find everything you need at my store, with just a ledger." "Agreed. I will split my business between you and Mr. Moore. That is fair and proper. Let us start. Here is the list my wife gave me. Put all these items on my ledger. The first month's receipts will be for Mr. Moore, and the following month for you. Does that work for you? Everything works with you." His bill came to 800 francs. Once everything was arranged, it was time to reorder. Mr. Moore gave a little nod of approval as I entered. "Here is an order. Very good, my friend. You will have it this evening." I did the same with Mr. Labour. The 4 orders combined came to 3,500 francs. It was daunting for me, but my dear wife said, "Do not worry. We will manage with hard work and strict economy. We will get through it all." How happy I was to have found such a treasure. When all our goods were in place and our bills settled, A friend of Mr. Moore came to visit us, Mr. Flutela. After exchanging pleasantries, he said to me, "Captain, if you want, I will lend you 10,000 francs without interest. Thank you. It would keep me up at night. Mr. Moore and Mr. Labour have given me credit. I am very grateful." Once we were well organised, customers came from all over, and sales were excellent, 1,500 francs per month. I was happy to be able to pay 1,000 francs to Mr. Moore and 500 francs to Mr. Labour each month, and I joyfully renewed our stock. That concludes the 16th part of this story. Thank you very much for listening. Please consider subscribing for more epic stories.